Hello.
Hey, Cindy, this is Tony.
So did you get a chance to call my elders?
Yes, I did.
Oh, yeah? What did they say?
They gave me the green light. So you want to go grab something to eat this evening?
Well, you know we're going to need to get a chaperone, don't you?
Wait, what? A chaperone? You're both 37 years old.
You're listening to The Critical Thought, where we challenge our listeners to use critical thinking when examining the teachings of Jehovah's Witnesses.
Welcome to The Critical Thought. In the upcoming episode, we're going to be having a discussion with two returning guests, Everette and Shardinea, and we're going to be discussing relationships when both parties are Jehovah's Witnesses.
One of the questions that people often ask is, how do Jehovah's Witnesses go about dating? And it's kind of interesting because Jehovah's Witnesses typically do not use the word dating. Jehovah's Witnesses do not date. And the reason why they consider dating as a sport. So in the culture of Jehovah's Witnesses, they use the word courting. He's courting the sister. You will rarely hear them use the word dating. Dating is often associated with, people date somebody this week, next month, and that's why witnesses don't date in school. They don't have boyfriends and girlfriends, even though many of them do. But officially, as an organization, as a religion, the only purpose that a man should be showing an interest in a woman is for marriage. And what that does, it produces some unusual circumstances and relationships and marriages because of that. Jehovah's Witnesses, for the most part, they really don't have a very healthy male and female relationship that develops in their organization. Everybody is suspect to be having sex. And so when that is the basic mindset of an organization, it produces a lot of problems.
Everette and Shardinea, when you were coming along as Jehovah's Witnesses, what are the kind of things you heard from the platform when it came to dating or courtship?
Me, I always heard that it was important who you dated. Never really came down to, liking someone or, having same interests or loving each other. At the end of it, it's like, is he, a ministerial servant? Is he reaching out to be, an elder? Is he going to be in the circuit work? And at one point, there was a circuit overseer who had an example of basically comparing the men to like Kentucky show horses.
The numbers.
Yeah, it's like, for him, it was just like, go after the prize horse or something. Like, ladies, you don't want the horse that ain't really doing anything. You want the prize horse, the top horse. And I'm just like, I don't want a horse, but okay. But that's pretty much what they were. It was never really about anything beyond just marry for the stats.
Yeah, we had that spiritual 1 through 10, and I remember for a while that was our culture. Like we would talk between us brothers, and we'd be like, he sounded like a spiritual too, and we would be like rating each other all the time, and if you were up there, if you were 10, you were heavy, and it was just, I remember my rating was like 4 to 6. It wasn't good.
Oh,
but
I didn't remember that. Nobody told me about the spiritual grade. No.
It wasn't good. I was trying to get it up there. And yeah, we had that. A lot of the brothers would say, and you hear, okay, so outside of the organization, you will hear somebody say, what kind of job does he have? What's he doing as a career? But inside, we're like, what's he doing? Is he a ministerial servant? What's his hours? What's he getting, out in field service? How's he treating the friends and all of that? That was the culture.
Right.
Yeah, that is so true. I remember for me, because when I started to start taking a look at the sisters and everything, I remember when I was at Bethel, they used to tell us what you need to do if you find a sister that you're interested in, you need to call 2 or 3 of her elders up and ask them about this particular sister. And the point that you made, Eric, is absolutely on point. The standard or the criteria that Jehovah's Witness young people are given to look for a husband and wife, those standards are just ridiculous. They have nothing to do with reality. Like you said, it's not even an issue of does he have a job, because you can have a brother who has a good job, making good money, and could take care of a sister. Yet a brother who is working part-time, broke, but he's a pioneer, that would be considered the prize. And then, of course, when they get married, they broke and they struggling, And all of a sudden, this is like, this ain't exactly what I thought it was going to be like. And so, and that's a story that we often see too many times is how they carry on this bogus status or criteria for what constitutes a good husband or a good wife. It's ridiculous.
Right.
I remember that phone call that we had. We had that. Well, I don't think we did. But the sister I was dating before her, we called each other's elders.
Oh, I did.
We did.
Only because you told me to. I had no interest in it. But you told me to. I did.
I was so upset at what my brother said about me because he told me. All right. And then the sister told me too, but she was like, we called and they didn't really say that much about her either. You know, she was in the, I think she was in the ASL congregation. She was doing quite a bit, but she moved congregations a lot. And so the elder would be like, well, you know, brother, she's not stable in the congregation. You know, do you really want to deal with that? You know, and then my brother about me, he told the sister, he was like, well, he's got a lot of potential, you know, and she said the way he said it just made it seem like there was just, you know, and I'm like, thanks, brother. That was really helpful. You know, I'm trying to date the sister and this is what I get.
When I was coming along, because I looked so young for my age, there was nobody that was really interested in me because I looked like a little kid when I was like 16, 17. So I ain't had those problems, right? But I just knew that when I was coming along, you had to be a baptized brother. So that was one of the criteria, you know. And so then the other thing was once you got past that, then of course it was like, hey, he needs to be a servant and elder and have all these different titles. And prior to meeting JT, I did not know anything about Bethelites because until I met my roommates, I was in like a country congregation.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So like in the country, we didn't have the same issues that people had in the city. You know, we didn't have those talks because we didn't have a lot of young people coming through to be giving those kind of talks. So I wasn't hearing all that, you know? So that's why I was saying that you had to be a brother, but we didn't have issues like, look at all these people in the circuit and this and that. We didn't have that.
Yeah.
So the bottom line was when I finally met JT, it was one of these things where he talked about calling your elders as well.
Oh, he told you that?
Yeah, he did.
Okay. Yeah.
So he gave me 3 elders in his congregation, and I gave him 3 in my congregation. Okay. And I remember the one brother in our congregation, he made an announcement to the whole book study that this Bethelite had called to ask about our dear Lady C.
Oh my goodness.
What a great thing this was and all that. Like, oh my God.
Man.
So he put me out there. And one of JT's elders, 2 of them were very nice. And another one said to me, who are you? And what do you want to know about him? But he was just so rude. I was like, oh my God. And I told JT, I said, I thought you said these brothers were nice, you know? But it was like I was on a fishing expedition or something.
He was being good cop, bad cop. That was all.
Oh my God.
You know, her elders did that with me, the good cop, bad cop thing.
Good cop, bad cop, yeah.
When we called, I don't remember if I had told you that. When I called her elders, one of the first things that they had told me was, oh, she's sick. Are you going to be able to deal with that? And the way they presented it to me was like, you don't know that she's sick, as if we hadn't been talking, you know. And it was like, she's got these health problems, bro. And do you really want to be?
Wow, wow, man.
And I'm like, by that time, I had already looked up like paragraph pages of Watchtower information on how to deal with that and how we were going to proceed. Yeah. But it was just like, man, why would you do that to somebody? You know.
He made the decision to study it and decide before he even said yes to dating me if that was something he was prepared to. Crohn's disease was something he was prepared to be a part of. So I didn't know that they just came right out the gate. It was like, yeah, she's sick, you don't want her, and I was like, oh, that sucks.
Now, did you guys have, on top of the elders, I also had like a sister in the congregation that everybody would go to when they were dating? And
almost every congregation has somebody like
like Big Mama.
I try to keep this to myself so much because I'm such a private person that when I called his elder, It's bad because as soon as he started talking, it's like, don't worry, we're not dating. You have nothing to worry about. You don't really have to tell me what's going on with him. It's totally fine. And I got off the phone like, this is too many people and my stuff, and I got to ask for permission and get status reports. And I ended up calling Carter like, yeah, maybe the dating thing isn't a good idea, because I was overwhelmed with too many people are in my stuff.
Yeah.
But then I think a day went by. I'm like, yeah, I can't do this. And I called him the next day, like, don't worry, I'll just tell everybody and I'll deal with the fact that everybody is in my stuff telling me what I can and can't do. Yeah. But yeah, I didn't even give him a chance to really say anything bad about Carter, because I already knew he wasn't going to say anything bad.
Yeah.
Nobody was really saying anything nice about Carter.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
But what with our situation is we dated long distance.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
And so you guys were local, but we were long distance. So it was a little bit different.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
And so I think we broke a lot of rules too, because I don't think we had a lot of chaperones either, did we?
Oh, chaperones.
Yeah, because sometimes Lady C would come to New York, and her and one of her girlfriends, they would come up, and we would go out in the city and stuff. And you always didn't have a chaperone with you, and that's kind of interesting, because the chaperone thing applies to everybody.
Yeah.
So you can have somebody who's 35, 45, 50 years old. And they gotta have a chaperone. And so it really shows you how in this organization people are not trusted. It's just as simple. People are not trusted as adults.
We decided to go to the memorial at my mom and dad's in Ohio.
Yeah. Okay.
And we were going to drive back, and my roommate said, you guys can't drive by yourself, because what's going to happen if you break down the side of the road and you have to go stay in a hotel and there's only one room left. She really, she broke it down.
She broke it down. She broke it down.
And I was like, oh my God. So I had to go over to my girlfriends, who, mind you, actually had plans to go out that night. I drove to her house that morning.
Yeah.
I busted in the house, went in her bedroom. I was like, you got to get up. You got to go to Ohio with me today.
Oh,
she was like, oh my God. You know, she goes, I have an event I'm going to tonight. I said, not tonight. You're going with me to Ohio.
Right. We were at the city hall by ourselves. We
were engaged by the end.
They probably still would have wanted to shout.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just amazing.
Right.
We had this apartment complex where a lot of single sisters lived. I mean, there were so many single sisters in this apartment complex that we were actually able to have a book study just made up of single sisters. Wow. The only married people was me, the conductor, and my reader and his wife. That was it. Everybody else in the book study was single. So when we went through the family book, man, it was terrible. It was just terrible. What happened was the sister got engaged in the complex, and so her fiance came over. And his car was there overnight.
Oh, no.
And the lights in the house were out.
Oh,
and so we started getting these phone calls like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. They're over there. Who's over where? They're over.
They over there doing who knows what.
Man, I got all these phone calls from these sisters calling up, reporting that the sister and her fiance, both cars are out in the yard. I guess they went and touched the hood to see if the hood was cool or whatever. I don't know.
Oh my goodness,
you know? Man. And so we were getting all these phone calls, and they wanted us to jump on and take care of this. Well, long story short, another couple had driven over to the house, and they left. And they left his car at her house. They all got into the same car, and they drove to go and visit one of the girls' parents for the weekend.
Man.
But see, all the witnesses saw was two cars, two men. I mean, man and woman must be had some sex going on, and so it was just on. I mean, I told ladies, they're crazy. What's wrong with these girls?
It's like when JT came to visit me when I was living in Ohio. The reason why I really said we didn't have a chaperone is because really it was my niece and nephew.
Oh,
and they were like 7 and 10.
Yeah.
And so they were really our chaperone because they went with us everywhere we went.
Yeah.
Calvin and Latasha.
Wow.
So we didn't have to
that's a
deal
good
with.
excuse for a chaperone. We got a chaperone.
Yeah,
So we had the kids with us, right?
Oh man, we had that. Did we have how many? We didn't have chaperones a lot, but I always made sure I tried to have chaperones. But it was.
Well, you were always singing stuff with Zara.
It was hard to coordinate with other grown folks to come with you as a grown person. I need to rally you, man. What? I got to go to work, man.
Yeah, and then we couldn't get any of my elders to chaperone because they didn't want us married at all, and so they wouldn't chaperone for us, and so we had to find some of our friends if we could. There was a rule in our congregation: if you couldn't find a chaperone and you had to take a sister somewhere, she had to sit in the back seat, cat a corner to you, and then you can take her around. Then it was okay.
I told you, ladies. I told you. Yeah, man, that was amazing. That. Even if you was in field service where I was from in Carolina, man, sister had to sit in the back. And like you said, the brother sat in the seat on this side, and it was like driving Miss Daisy, man. I remember that so well.
But JT, remember when we took I'm not gonna say her name on the camera, but when we shook her with us and she rode with us to Ohio, it was like she had so much stuff to say from the back seat.
No.
To the point that I kept telling her, if you don't stop talking, I'm going to put you in the trunk. We were having those kind of conversations. We were laughing and joking and stuff, but she always had something to say, you know? So like if you had things you wanted to talk about with your potential spouse and things like that, there was no privacy.
Yeah. It was very difficult to actually get to know the person in a group setting, and that was another thing I guess we wanted to talk about. Anytime you're in a group setting like that, you're not really going to get to know, that person. You're going to get to see him in a group, but like privately, personally, you're not going to really get to see him.
Yeah. And so like I say, it boils down to you're being treated like you are a 16, 17-year-old. Yeah. And you're 25, 30, 35, 40 years old. It's almost, it's really insulting that people would look at two adults and these people have been witnesses. But see, the reason why is because the way the organization is structured. Mm-hmm. Jehovah's Witnesses, men and women, they do not have a healthy relationship along the way. Yeah. As young people, you grew up as young people, you don't have any social activity. The typical congregation does nothing. Now, I just laugh when I heard people say, well, we're talking about as an organization of Jehovah's Witnesses, we did nothing for our young people. That is the biggest complaint I heard when I was growing up, when I became an adult. As an organization, we don't have any type of social activities so that people can interact with men and women on a social level, not a sexual level, but just in a social setting. So all of a sudden, when you become a certain age, now it's time for you to pick a husband or wife. You've never been around anyone. Yeah. And you don't know what to do and you don't know who to pick. And that becomes a serious problem.
I think we only had like 3 activities. There was ballroom, there was skating, and bowling. And that was about the only time you was going to be in a social setting with somebody. That was it. That was really all we did.
Yeah. You were fortunate because and when I grew up, man, the friends, they didn't want to do that. We might have one cookout, maybe a year. Yeah. And so the contrast was kids I went to school with. Their churches were taking bus trips to King's Dominion and all kind of stuff. They had summer Saturday afternoon baseball over, Mount Nebo playing Mount Calvary, and so they did stuff. Witnesses, we went on field service on Saturday morning, and as the lady Steve will tell you, we got dog. We got dog trying to do a couple things so that the young people could have social activities. We got dog. Somebody dropped a dime on me to the CO, man. Wow. So,
Well, I remember this one incident in my congregation in my country town, Kingdom Hall. So I'm at the Kingdom Hall minding my business. All of a sudden, I'm getting an invite to this sister's house for dinner. And it was a brother in the congregation that was interested in me. And so at that point, he identified me as a person that he wanted to pursue.
You didn't tell me about that.
Oh. Uh-oh.
Yes, you do.
Man, this dude wanted to kill me, man. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead. Tell the story. This dude wanted to pull up on me, boy.
So, and as dumb as I was like, well, so I'm there and everything. And so then it was like, I may have saw him a couple other times. And then I remember my mom asking me if I loved him. And I was like looking at her like, I have no idea. I don't even know this brother.
Oh, goodness.
And the next thing I knew, he was bringing some rings out of a Sears catalog.
Wow.
And it was like,
I didn't even know the brother.
and I was like, well, I only seen him like a couple times, but he was all ready to move forward with marriage.
Man.
And my dad was like, I know you're not going to marry him and this and that. And everybody was like, I had my uncles, they were saying, oh, this is a nice brother. He's a really nice, and it's like, I didn't even know him, you know, but they were like, oh, this is a nice brother. He would make a good man for somebody and all this. And
wow.
So next thing I knew, I was going to my cousin's wedding and I had invited my friend from work, my girlfriend from work, who also was a Jehovah's Witness. And she went with us to the wedding. Mm-hmm. And so the next morning when she went home after the wedding, because she stayed overnight, she called me on the phone and she said, what are you doing?
Oh, goodness.
She said, you know, you are not interested in that brother. Man. You know, and at that point, a light bulb went off in my head and I woke up and I was like, oh, you're right. You know, I was like in a trance, you know?
Yeah.
And so he accused her of getting me away from him. I know it's what she said. I know it's got to be her. But it was like, it was so weird. I was like, how in the world did I end up in this situation? You know, just because somebody at the blue came and wanted to marry me and I didn't even know him from Adam. And then it was like, oh, really? Scary stuff.
That is interesting.
Yeah, I met him a couple of years later.
Oh, okay. Oh man.
Oh,
okay.
man. But you know, but the experience that she just shared is actually a very common occurrence in this organization, because I mean, in most municipalities, in most areas, there's typically a higher ratio of single women than it is to single men. Just in general, I know here in Washington D.C., man, it's like 13 to 14 to 1. I mean, it's high.
It was like 7 to 1 in Detroit, I think.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, in most areas it's high. Then when you move that number into a church, the number is also high as well. At least with quote unquote church women, they can get involved with men in other churches. They at least have other numbers they can pull from. But in the Kingdom Hall, the numbers are just off the chain. And as a result, you will end up finding, unfortunately, people getting married to people that they're not really compatible with. That happened in my congregation back home. There was a brother. There was a sister. She was very good friends with my mom. She was a regular pioneer, just as nice as you could be. I mean, just a wonderful little sister. She was like 25 years old, single. She'd been pioneering since she finished high school. She was on all the circuit assembly. Just a wonderful little sister. But there was no brothers in our circuit. They just wasn't. Because most guys, where I'm from, and most guys, when they graduate on June 4th, they married on June 5th. You know, and so they're not going to college. They're gonna go and work a job at the mill, and they just get married.
Yep.
Because you know the sex issues there. So I don't even need to stay single. I'm not gonna go to Bethel. I'm not gonna pioneer. Let me just get a regular job and get married.
Absolutely.
So it just kills the numbers of available men. So she was like 25 years old. There were brothers in my congregation. I had two pioneer parties. We all graduated together, but ahead of us was 2 other brothers, and she ended up getting involved with one of the brothers in our congregation. He was 17 years old, man. She was 25. Yeah, he was 17. And I remember she used to tell my mom, she used to say, you know, Sister JT, the Bible says it's better to, the married than the burn. And mom used to tell all the time, girl, the flame gonna go out real quick when you get married. You gonna find it out. And so, and I remember my mom used to tell it all the time, And mom was a piece of
But wouldn't that be considered pedophilia today?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it would. Under 18.
I know. That's a good question. That's a good question.
Maybe the guy wouldn't consider it that way, but that's under 18.
And so I remember. So he quit high school his senior year, and he got married. Man, he was 17 years old. Man. She was 25 years old, and it was terrible, man. And I'm telling you, that was many years ago. Until this very day, I just talked to someone just a few weeks ago, man. Just a few weeks ago. They have had marital problems. They have struggled, disfellowshipping, reproves, it's just terrible.
they're still trying to make it work. And so in this organization, people end up getting married to people that they are simply not compatible for because it's the only thing that's left.
Yeah.
And that's what people do. I tell my wife all the time, I say, it's just like when they announce snow here in DC area, you go to Safeway, Food Line, Harris Teeter, whatever, and you cut that corner and there's that one loaf of bread is pushed back, all smashed up. And you're like,
oh, I
got to take that one. And so that's what it becomes like when people in this organization oftentimes begin to select a potential spouse or mate. We, Lady and I, we were very fortunate. We met each other. We had a long-term relationship. We were actually very good friends before we got involved. I mean, it was, and so because we had,
I knew he had issues before I married him.
He was already smush bread.
Oh Lord, y'all bad.
I'm just kidding.
Y'all ain't right. Y'all know y'all wrong. Y'all wrong.
Man.
Oh my goodness. But you get to see people in all their facets. So you don't, because I mean, I know people, man, they saw each other 2-3 times. They was married, and now all of a sudden they're like, I used to, when I was at Bethel, you remember when they had the temporary worker program?
Yeah, 3 months. Was it 3 to 6 months?
Well, no, actually, it was, you could come for a week.
Oh wow!
It was during the time they was doing all the construction at the Stanley Theater and the Bossett and the Stanish Towers. When they was doing that heavy duty construction at Bethel back in the day, they would invite brothers from congregations all over the United States. You come for a week or two, and so you had all these brothers who've been married for 10, 15 years. Many of them, when they came in, we used to see guys literally just crying. Like, I always wanted to come to Bethel, man. I love my wife, I love my kids, man, but I always want these come for a year or two, and now I'm here, And so these guys end up getting married right out of high school.
Yeah.
And now here they are, 25, 30 years old. And it's not as people say, it's not I don't love my wife, not I don't love my kids, but they realize that they got married many times too soon. And young marriages have a very, very high failure rate. It's just a reality because there's no money, there's no experience, and then you begin to look and realize you can't. Because that was a problem. The brother in my congregation, he still wanted to run with us, man. We going to play basketball.
Yeah. Oh, man, I remember that.
We going to ride our dirt bikes, And he was like, "I want to hang with you, man. You married, man. You can't hang with your wife. Want you home, And it created a problem.
That's true.
He was 17 years old, man. 17 years old. You married? Come on.
But like JT and I, we kind of like knew each other for 3 years before we got married. And one of the things I think that made our marriage so wonderful is the fact that we felt comfortable talking about things to each other. Yeah. And so it was like I just felt like I just knew him.
Yeah.
I just knew him on a different level. And the reason why is because the distance between us made it so that we didn't have to get married so quick.
Yeah.
But we could still talk to each other on the telephone. We didn't need a chaperone for that.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
We did the same thing. We talked all night, 6-7 hours, fall asleep on the phone. That's how I knew we had pretty good compatibility because it was a lot of people I would try that with, and then it would get like awkward, and they were like, I don't know if we could be talking this long, or should we be on the phone? And it was just with us, we didn't have that issue. We were able to just talk about whatever we wanted and just be on the phone all night.
Yeah.
How long did y'all date?
A year is what I say. I think for her it was a lot less because evidently she didn't know we were dating. Now I remember reading the Young People Ask book. Young People Ask book said if you were talking on a regular basis.
I know what the book said, but what I decided, that I was not dating, regardless of what. So for him, he felt like we were dating according to the Young People Ask book. You're talking to somebody by yourself, you're officially dating. I read that, I knew that was what it said, but I never felt that way about when you're seriously trying to engage with someone, whether it's just friendship or it becomes dating. I wanted to be his friend first. And I didn't want, because the book says just from talking to somebody by yourself, you're dating. I said, how does that make sense? And I just didn't feel like it made sense. So for me, we were friends. And regardless to what the book said, for him, we were dating. But it was more so just me because everybody around me, like, you're dating, according to the Young People Ask. Even my mom, at one point, you know, feel like you guys were dating. But for me, I just truly wanted friendship first, to get to know him first, then to be able to say, yeah, we're dating, which happened for him a year, for me about 6 months or so.
So Shardinea, how would you feel when you say you wanted to get to know this person as a friend first? At what point would you state that you would find out that you were actually dating? Would you expect him to say, hey, look, we're officially dating? What would you be looking for?
You know, I don't think he ever officially did say.
No, I don't think I did.
I think it never officially got spoken. I kind of just felt it. It just progressed on in a way where it didn't really, nothing had to be said, but because for him, we already were dating. But for me, it was just, it progressed in a way I didn't feel like I needed to say, hey, are we this or are we that? It just felt like it just eased into it without the serious, like, what are we doing now? Feeling like I'm lost in what's happening with us.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And that goes back to what I was saying before. In the organization, men and women, young men and young women, they cannot have a healthy type of relationship. The organization, the minute that you speak, and we used to laugh about this. A brother comes in, we've seen situations where a brother comes into the Kingdom Hall and the attendant says, you know, I need you to sit up here, brother, it's only available seat. And it's a single sister. And by the end of the meeting, everybody got the wedding planned out already.
Yeah.
Everybody got the wedding planned out. And he's like, I don't know what she is. I just first.
That's what I was supposed to say.
All the time.
And so what you said is so true. The minute that you start talking to someone, the organization quote unquote says, oh, y'all courting now.
Yeah.
Y'all courting.
Yeah.
Y'all gotta be serious. You gotta get married. And so because of that, and like you said, everybody around you is now saying, you're courting. And so at that point, well, I guess we gotta just keep it moving in that direction. Because if you decide to not do that, then you get dogged in the congregation.
Yeah.
I mean, the organization will dog you.
Yeah.
Well, JT, can you get reproved or something if you are looking at someone and dating someone and then you abruptly stop dating? How do they deal with that in the organization?
Typically, it will depend on the other party. If the other party just says, no, we know we're just friends, then there's nothing. But if the other party feels that they were dating you or you were dating them, then you can be dealt with by the congregation. This was a big issue for Bethelites. In fact, yeah, when you first go to Bethel, in fact, if you look on it used to be on the application. I don't know if it's up there now. I haven't seen one in years. But it used to specifically say, we don't want no playboys. When you got to Bethel, you went through New Boys School. And that was one of the things they really talked to. They said, now, y'all guys need to understand, you guys are single guys. You're going to be doing a lot of traveling, and you're going to be in a lot of environments where you will be around a lot of single sisters. You need to make sure you conduct yourself accordingly. Yeah. And unfortunately, man, there was Bethelites, man. These boys was players, man. I mean, I knew this one guy who was engaged to two sisters, man.
Engaged to two sisters.
In Virginia. He was engaged to same time, man. Two sisters.
Okay.
Yeah. And so
his wife ended up. He ended up in our sister congregation.
Yeah.
So we went to the north side of the congregation. He went to south. And he was engaged to like a sister in Chicago.
And a sister in Virginia.
Yeah. And then he ended up marrying the other sister.
Yeah.
It was pretty bad.
Okay. Yeah. I wonder how you thought that was going to work out. That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, we it's not funny, but we used to see the boys get in trouble all the time, man. I remember one night we came back. We had went out to some little get together up in the Bronx, and so it's like 8 or 9 of us. Like, we rolled back back into Brooklyn, and it's in the summertime because we didn't have no money. We didn't have no air conditioners in our room, so it's just too hot to go up in the room. So right in front of 124 Bethel, there's what's called the Promenade, and it's a spectacular view of New York City. If you walk in the Promenade, you're looking over the Manhattan, Twin Towers. It's just spectacular. Yeah. And so we just chilled out. We just walking the Promenade because we didn't feel like going back upstairs because it was so hot in the room. And off in the distance, man, we see one of the boys with a sister, and it's like 11, 12 o'clock at night, man. And we're like, what are you doing? And so we like, let's keep walking, let's go. And so as we walk up to them, we can see the sister, man. Tears just running down. And we knew exactly what happened. He just told her, this ain't gonna work, girl. He breaking it off.
And now the catch-22 is, if you're at Bethel and that same sister makes a phone call, they're gonna pack you and have you out the next day.
Wow.
And interestingly, evidently, somehow, some way, they must have worked it out, because he ended up marrying that girl. Yeah, and so it's very unfortunate, because people are put into a situation where they may be just trying to get to know somebody.
Yeah.
But because the way the organization is, you have to go through this whole process and end up being married to somebody that you don't. I mean, we know, Lady C and I right now, man, we talk about it, we talk about a lot, one of the things that we see, which is kind of unfortunate, when people come to realize this is not the truth, they realize that we've just simply worked at a book publishing company. It's like we all work down at, UPS, or we all work down at, Chick-fil-A or whatever, Safeway. It's like somebody on your job. And so when the person realizes this is not the truth, many times we know people, they've had to re-examine their marriages. And they realize, I would never married you if it wasn't for this religion. On both sides, both men and women. It's not one or the other. It's just they realize that this is not the person I should have married anyway. I married you and I stayed with you because I didn't want to get a divorce and get this fellowship and this and that. But now, I realize I have freedom. I have choices now. And that's kind of unfortunate, because oftentimes these people have children. They also have things that they had built together, homes, property, real estate, just investment with each other. And so it's really sad when you see that this organization, and we talk to people in other denominations that are very, very strict on their young people. They do the same thing. They end up marrying someone in the church, in the Kingdom Hall. They're not compatible.
Okay, so now I want to change gears, and I want to kind of talk about what happens when individuals get in trouble during their courtship as Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, do you guys want to kind of share what happened when you guys got in trouble with your courtship?
So going through the dating process, besides the little troubles that we had about his elders, not feeling like he was a good choice, mine not feeling like I was a good choice, and we dated anyway, everybody accepted that. But still, at the same time, it was still a bit messy. But in that, we spent more time just chilling out at my grandma's house where we were, because nobody really wanted two chaperones, because they didn't really want us dating. So we're kind of like, okay, we got to have somewhere. And they're here, my parents, my family, big house full of family. So we were safe there. So that's where we spent a lot of our time during the dating process. But at some point, everybody goes to sleep. We're still up playing video games, and we get a little too close. Not enough to be for anything as drastic as what happened with the judicial hearing, but to them it was. So we got a little too close. I had my meeting, and it was pretty much compared to him a slap on the wrist. It was private reproof, and it was done before it really even got started. He ended up telling them, and he got disfellowship. For him, is, look what you did to her. You took advantage of her. You stay away from her. Never again. How dare you be a player? And any type of label they could put on him for this whole situation. I even told my elders to make sure you tell them, this is a 2-person thing. We both did this. You shouldn't, make sure not to come down on him like he's the only one, because it was already leaning towards they're about to take him and just take him out. And it just didn't work out that way. And I ended up getting the fatherly part of my elders, oh man, we love you. We, just be careful what you're doing. Don't do it again. They did say though, before, if he's getting this fellowship, don't marry him. And I did. I said, okay. And then he came to me, and said, I'm getting this fellowship. I said, oh, okay, well, we're getting married. And that's how that happened. But it wasn't bad for me, but it was bad for him, for of course, because of him getting this fellowship.
So we were, the issue that we ran into with my elders, we couldn't find any chaperones, as she said. And because of that, we ran into issues where we were isolated, and sometimes we got a little close. We were dealing with my elders. Okay, so my elders were already upset with me about the situation that I was in with the previous brother, the slumlord, and the way that I was trying to get that problem solved, and they weren't solving it. And so they found this as an opportunity. We're like, oh, we can disfellowship him for this, even though it actually wasn't a disfellowshipping offense. I had actually saw that in the elders book that what happened with us was not a disfellowshipping offense. They had a choice that they didn't have to disfellowship us, but they decided to anyway, because they were trying to get me out of their hair, and they were trying to make sure I wouldn't go to the circuit overseer for what was going on. And so everything just happened so fast that I told them my conscience would bother me about stuff, and I told my elders every single thing that I did wrong. That's probably why I didn't make that much progress in this organization. But I had told them when we had gotten in trouble, I told them what happened immediately. And what ended up happening, I'm sorry. That wasn't immediate. I actually told them after I had asked an elder if he would preside over our wedding. And he said, no, I'm not going to do that because I have a reputation. And for some reason there was already rumors being spread about me that I was speaking against the brothers because of the situation with the slumlord ministerial servant. And he said he was worried about his reputation and wouldn't be able to do our wedding. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. This was, it was a lot. There was a lot going on behind that situation, but we had no support. And so once we did try and move forward and get married, it was very difficult to do that. When I told the elders what happened, I told them, I think Saturday after field service, I told them what happened with us. I said, hey brothers, look, we got a little too close. We're still trying to get married. We're going to move up the wedding date so we don't get. I know that there's a scripture, if you're burning, let the married do not sin, and that's kind of where we were. So I said we're gonna just move up the wedding and try and get married. I told them Saturday. Monday they had a judicial committee, and I was disfellowship. The meeting was all of 15, 20 minutes. And it was just like they already had all their ammunition about the previous situation with the slumlord, and they wanted me out. And so that situation for them was perfect. They asked me a bunch of questions I didn't really understand. I was upset with myself for getting into that situation in the first place. And I felt like I had disappointed Jehovah. I had disappointed the elders. There was an elder that he had actually told me, he was like, this is not the normal way that we handle these situations. It normally isn't this quick, because I don't think your elders didn't talk to you for like another 2 weeks.
Yeah, so the weird thing about it is it was quick, but at the same time, it kind of lingered because a couple weeks after we got married, they came back to another meeting and was like, so you married him anyway? And I'm like, yeah, I did. And they're just like, all right, private reproof, after they set me outside to pray for 5 seconds. So it wasn't really much for me.
Yeah. And so with me, I told them Saturday, Monday, they had a judicial committee, and I was out Monday. Wednesday, I appealed it, and Thursday we got married. And that was how that went with us.
This is the aspect of the judicial process that most people know nothing about. When you go to elder school and they give you your flock book, shepherd book, whatever you want to call it, there is a section. There's literally a section in the book, is part of the curriculum, where they go over this aspect that may come up in a couple that's courting. There may be, and they refer to it as uncleanness, heavy petting, whatever. And I remember in my class, we literally sat there, 900 elders. And we discussed for over 20 minutes, what is the difference between momentarily touching a woman's breast and caressing the breast? And it went around the room as elders were giving, I think it's maybe more than 30 seconds. I think maybe 2 minutes rubbing down. And so
2 minutes, man.
And so this is 900 elders, man. And I'm sitting there like, I don't believe we talking about this. Is crazy. I mean, even back then, you could just see that you're talking about Pharisaic. This is a perfect example. And so you have men who have no qualification, none. These men don't have no training in psychology, human development, emotion. They ain't got none of these guys work. You know who these guys are. And yet they're going to discuss something as intimate and as personal as that. And after they finish discussing it, they're then going to make a ruling on your life. Yeah. And you're right. You don't have to get this fellowship for that. And so I tell people all the time, those 3 guys in that back room back there, they will literally dictate what your life will be like if you're part of this organization. Your wife, and that's why you see the different rulings, the different results.
Yep.
You would think both of them prayed to God's Holy Spirit on their decision, and yet they came with two different decisions with the same thing. And that's kind of the things that bothers a lot of elders when they have to have cross congregation. Well, we disfellowship the person. Well, we thought this day she was repentant. And yet they sit there and jacked up folks' lives.
Yeah.
And so this whole issue that you are discussing, how the relationship, what goes on between people who may be courting or dating, kissing and so forth, holding hands, depending on the elders, they can literally make an issue out of anything they want to. And the kicker is you have no recourse. Like you said, you appeal means very little. Most appeals don't get turned down. Most appeals don't get changed because another body of elders is not going to overrule another body of elders because we might have y'all sitting on one of our cases that we did. And so very rarely will you see cases overruled. Very rarely. And they're short, and they're very short and quick.
Yeah.
Because when you get called on the committee, like, man, I ain't got no Saturday afternoon spend going through all this stuff, man. Let's get in and out, guys. And that's what they do. And yet that has just impacted someone's life for the next 10, 15 years.
I remember like just looking at the brothers at the appeal committee, and they were so nonchalant. Like, look, brother, just get this fellowship, man. You'll be back in 6 months. You'll be fine. I'm like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
I went to this because I thought I was actually going to get heard. And in the first committee, my elders were so detailed. You're already in like a compromised emotional state. You're upset with yourself. You're in shame. And here they are asking you these extremely detailed questions. As you don't even know how to answer because you're in just this crazy emotional state. I felt like my elders had purposely put me in that committee so close because they knew I might be emotionally irrational, and they were trying to get me caught in something. To say something wrong, because they were asking me stuff I didn't even understand what they were asking me half the time. They asked me a hypothetical question. Would you let your children do this? I don't have any children. So I don't know if I could use that as a teaching, opportunity later on or not. And so I said, I guess I would, maybe I would. And they started writing stuff down when I said that. And I was like, oh, I said something I shouldn't have said.
It's almost like machine gun.
Yeah.
I mean, most people don't understand this. The way this judicial committee works is while I'm sitting here listening, I'm formulating my question based off what you're saying. So I got time to think and get my thoughts together where you're just talking. As soon as brother one finishes, brother two steps in, brother three steps in, and back to brother. And it just continues on. And what happens is people get rattled. They get rattled. I mean, I have actually been in judicial meetings, man, where you see the person across the table and you can see their leg. Yeah. They're so nervous. Their leg is bouncing, and there's some elders, man. I know for a fact. There's some elders they like to look at. He's scared to death. He's scared to death. Look at, scared to death. Do you see his leg, man? You see his leg was jumping, and so you're like, well, I thought we were trying to help the brother, man. I mean, the guy got he did something wrong, but I thought the glee, it's like we got him now, and that's why when you talk to people who've had like run-ins with the elders on other issues. It is at that moment they realize these guys were saying, we got you now. We got you now. And unfortunately, man, that is true. And that just goes to the whole point of why we need to take a look at this organization that we were a part of. Because, see, once you realize that this ain't got nothing to do with God, Jesus, and Moses, you begin to understand why you and I underwent the different things that we had to undergo as being a part of this organization.
Now I'd like to focus on what happened after you got married, because now you're dealing with a situation where you have one person that's disfellowshipped and one person that's just on private reproof. And if it's private, people don't really know it because you're just not commenting at the meetings. And they're probably just thinking, oh, they're just spiritually weak. So they don't even know you've been disciplined. So y'all want to kind of talk about that?
So being on private reproof, it was fine because, when you're on private reproof, nobody knows anything about what happened. But when you're married to someone who's disfellowship, that's another, a different emotion that comes into that, because now they don't know what you did, but you did something because you're with a disfellowship person. All of a sudden you're married. And now it's like, oh man, I'm so sorry about that. And it makes it feel like you lost a loved one in death when they're constantly talking to you as if all of a sudden this person in your life doesn't exist anymore, or all of a sudden now you're just immediately unhappy. You're with a disfellowship person, so you're in for an unhappy marriage. So right off the bat, just I'm married, newly married, and now doom upon my marriage, almost like I'm just walking around in that kind of atmosphere, and it was really difficult to be in that situation.
All right. So being disfellowshipped in that situation was like everything had just, because I didn't expect to be disfellowshipped. I thought I was going to get some kind of assistance. And after the appeal committee failed, it was just like, wow, you know, everything had just, the floor had just been taken out from under me. And now all of a sudden I'm in a situation where I'm still trying to take care of my household, but I have no help. You know, I don't have access to the elders anymore. My elders had actually told me that I'm not allowed to study with my wife. And I didn't really understand that concept, because I felt like, if obviously we're in a spiritually weak state, and so we need to study so we can build back up to get where we're supposed to be. And they're like, no, you actually can't read the Bible with your wife. You can't pray with your wife. You can't study any articles. She can't pray for you. At one point, I think years later, they said that she could if she saw that I was making some sort of spiritual progress. Yeah. But it was just, they took this spirituality out of our relationship, and we weren't even allowed to talk about spiritual things. And so it was just, we started off our marriage with such a void, because everything about us was the organization, and they took that. And so we didn't really have anything, actually. And so we had a lot of communication issues, because I had to watch what I was going to say to her. I couldn't talk about anything spiritual. I couldn't talk about what was bothering me. I couldn't talk about the Bible. And so like we had just a lot of silent moments where we couldn't talk, and it was brutal.
I'm gonna tell you, Carter, what you said is very important. I think it's very important that people who are not Jehovah's Witnesses understand what you just said. You just explained that in the Jehovah's Witness culture, the way this religion works, if you are the husband, head of house, because of being disfellowship, you cannot pray with your wife. You cannot discuss the word of God with your wife. You cannot talk about God, Jesus, Moses, or the Bible with your wife. There is no scripture in the Bible that ever says a point where a husband cannot talk to his wife about God. And that's what we believe. That's what we did. And when you tell this to people who are not witnesses, who go to their community church, they will look at you and they will think, you've got to be kidding me. The church leaders told you you can't pray with your own wife. You can't talk to your wife about the Bible. And see, this is what makes this organization so dangerous, because they're able to move into people's lives in such detail, in such intimate ways, that all you're really doing is doing what somebody told you. I think it's very important that people understand, especially people who are not witnesses, who may be studying, who may be interested. You need to know what you're getting into. This is what you're getting into. This type of culture, this type of attitude and viewpoints. And so I think, Lady C, we often talk about how people who are just seeing witnesses, they only see the outward appearance, and the outward appearance looks good. But when you pull back a few layers on that onion, man, you see that it's a whole different story, And I think it's very important that people understand exactly what you just said to them, because that is important to understand.
And I can't begin to explain how depressing it is, to have that taken away. I mean, I felt like there was like, they literally just slid a block in between us, and we're like, you guys aren't going to have a real relationship now. I became so depressed, not being able to talk to my wife. I isolated myself. I got into my music. I had gotten suicidal at one point, because I felt like there was nothing I could do for her. There's nothing I can do for my wife. There's nothing I can't, I felt like I saw how the situation was going to pan out, and we were going to end up in a spiritually dangerous situation. And so I felt like I need to take myself out of that situation to give her a better shot at a better future, because it was just, they were setting us up for failure.
I had asked him throughout because I saw them. He was constantly playing his piano, and I know him. I know, like, that's the I'm depressed and I got things on my mind piano playing, and he would constantly go there and not talk to me. And I'm like, why won't you talk to me? Why can't why are you telling your piano essentially what I would like to know? And he's like, I don't know what I can tell you. I can't tell you anything. And I'm just like, what am I supposed to do with that? Neither one of us really knew what to do with that. All I could do was just say, okay, well, I'm here when you figure out how you want to talk. Yeah. And that he's right. That was a big block when you can't share your emotional pain with someone that you want to share your emotional pain with.
Yeah. Is it not ironic that the most impactful aspect of the entire Jehovah's Witness program, out of all the programs that Jehovah's Witnesses have, the judicial process is the most impactful, and it is the least understood and known thing in this religion?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's amazing.
People have no idea how it works.
It's amazing. It impacts people's lives the hardest, the heaviest, the worst, and yet it is the least known and understood aspect of being involved with the Jehovah's Witness religious denomination. It's the least known.
I agree, because prior to you all getting married, you had no idea that you were going to be put on those type of restrictions in terms of spirituality. Is this correct?
Yeah, because I had told her when I found out I was going to get this fellowship, I went up to her and I said, we shouldn't get married, because I knew there were going to be some issues. I didn't know it was going to be that bad.
Yeah.
The way they got in our lives was like, wow, what are we supposed to do at this point but fail?
So now that you're married and you know these stipulations are upon you, how do you proceed after, the piano playing, the ignoring each other? As time goes on, what begins to transpire in your relationship?
First year, emotionally, he was just unavailable. Yeah. Emotionally, he really wasn't all there. But he was still a great husband. But I think for the first year, he's like, he doesn't really remember too much because he was just in his own headspace. But the second year we moved to Canton, and it was still a little bit rough then, but a little bit better because we distanced ourselves from Detroit. Was the family. That's where everybody is. That's where the friends, the family, everybody, the ties are. Canton was even more isolated. So now we really do. Now it's you talk to each other or you're not talking to anybody. And at this point for him, it's like, I can't hold this in any longer. And for me, it's just like, I'm here. I have nobody. I tried to make it work with the elders in Canton, the congregation in Canton. It just was hard because it's really lonely. And I try not to see people in a cliquey way, but it kind of is. And they're still acting like I'm just me, I'm not with you. Like when you're disfellowship, are you really married to the organization? It's almost like I'm just single. So it was the loneliness brought us more into a talking where we're slowly starting to talk, and he's finding, people to talk to that aren't witnesses, and he's finding his own way that way. So yeah, it was like probably 2 years in before we really started to grow into being able to confide in each other comfortably as a starting point.
One of the reasons why I had kind of went into myself so much is because like right after I got this fellowship, I lost two friends. I lost a spiritual mother that I had a Minnie. I think her name was Minnie Williams. The way that she died was so messed up. She was like a mother to us. When anytime I was dating somebody, I brought them to Sister Minnie Williams, and I had there were two sisters that I had brought before that she was the kind of sister that would tell you, what you needed to hear, but not in the way that you wanted to hear it. And she just crushed your dreams. I remember this one sister I had brought up, she had a great day with her, joke, clowned out all day with her. And then at the end of the day, when she left, she's like, "Oh, baby, she's using you, baby. What are you doing?" And I was just like, what? I didn't know what to do after that. And by the time I got my wife to her, they spent all day together. They had a great conversation. And Sister Williams was like, I really like her. And that's how I knew that this was it right here. Sister Williams like her, you can't do no wrong. And I was that close to that sister. She was like a mother to me. Even after I had gotten this fellowship, there was still a lot of friends that I was caring for, that had me do things for them. And after I got in this fellowship, I was still doing stuff for them. And this sister was one of them. And it was just the way that she died. Nobody told me she died. I found out by trying to get in contact with her constantly. I thought that I was trying to respect the disfellowshipping arrangement. And I thought at one point, maybe she just decided to just stop answering my calls.
I kept calling. I kept calling for a while, but no one ever answered the phone until finally one day somebody called and said, have you been calling, Sister Williams' number? I was like, yes, I'm a friend of hers. I've been wanting to know, me and Carter want to know if she's okay. And it's like, oh, she died. And that's how we found out. I had went to her house. I was knocking on doors, windows. I thought she had failed or something, and something happened and she couldn't, get in contact with me, and she had died. And they didn't tell me until after the funeral that she was gone. And this was like my mother, in the congregation. And it was just that pushed me further and further, in the depression, because I just really felt like I didn't mean anything to this congregation anymore. I didn't mean anything I didn't know what to do. And so I kind of relapsed into myself, and there was just nothing, because I couldn't talk to my wife about it. I didn't talk to her about that. I didn't know who to talk to about anything. You couldn't have a shepherding call. I found that out too. I tried to set up a shepherding call, and the elders were like, yeah, we don't do shepherding calls for disfellowship people. So it's like, just, you're on your own with this. Yeah.
Did she die because of neglect?
And you know what's crazy, and not funny, but it was so it has such a close proximity. It's like I got this fellowship, and I think 4 months later, was it like 6 or 9? We were still going over there. We were going back and forth, but at one point I was trying to respect the arrangement and not be over there so much. One of the elders had actually told me, you need to stop going over there. We'll handle it. She's in good hands. She would tell me stuff. She would be like, these elders, they come over here and they just drop literature off and they leave, and they think that's okay. And I've got other friends. I've got at least, what is it, two, maybe 3. There's other friends that I'm actually still in contact with today, older friends that need help. And they'll call me because the elders aren't doing anything for them. They'll be like, hey, Everett, I need you to come in. I need to get some lumber. I need somebody with a truck. Hey, Everett, I need to get these branches off my roof, or I need my lawn handled. They're still in. And they have to call this disfellowship brother from Ohio to drive to Detroit to help them. Okay. And it makes me, all it does is just confirm to me that I don't need to be in this organization, because they're not even looking out for their own. They got to reach out to somebody that's that far away and disfellowship and apostate to get some help. I talked to this sister. This was a couple months ago. We had one over there. Her niece was telling me, her niece isn't a Jehovah's Witness, but she was like, all they do is they come in, they drop literature off, and they try to recruit me, and that's it. And then they leave. And I think that's what happened with Sister Williams, was that once she died, because Sister Williams was, and I didn't even get to mention this, Sister Williams had outlived her entire family. She had like a couple of kids. She had a husband, outlived them all, and we were her kids. Me and the other brothers that were caretaking for her. The one brother, he went to Bethel, and he gave me the responsibility of caretaking for her. And it was just, I felt like she was my mother. I went over there, I took her to the grocery store. I helped her around the house. I painted her house. I not the whole house. I painted like the garage and certain rooms. We did a lot of patchwork in the house and stuff. And it was just, that was just a sister that I took care of. And that was a lot of times, that was why my field service time was down, because I was over there, and my brothers, they didn't care that I was, it was just my field service time was down. So it didn't matter that I was over there. But when I got this fellowship, she was like, just come back. And she would talk to me all the time, and then one day I just didn't hear from her anymore.
You guys would not believe how many people are having a very similar experience, which lets you know that this is not a one-off. This is not, that's just a situation you had. This is a very common thing, because the elders and the congregation, they're given the same set of instructions on how to treat people. And if you have the same set of instructions on how to treat people, you're going to end up with pretty much the same results. So anybody who's out, like you said, elders don't do shepherding calls. They're instructed to stop by once a year. Unfortunately, most elders don't even do that. They don't even do that. So once again, it's all on paper. Like I said, on paper, the organization looks good. I mean, the brochures, they look good, but you go two or three layers deep, man, you know, it's shallow. It's really,
And then they give you that Return to Jehovah brochure. People give you that so confidently, you know, like this is just, you know, I remember brother handing me like, brother, this magazine, man.
They kept giving it to me to give to you.
Oh man, yeah, you would leave them on the table and stuff. I look at that magazine, throw it off the table because I couldn't stand that doggone thing. There wasn't even anything for disfellowship people in that magazine. It only went as far as like reproof, I think. And it was just the closest it got to our situation was if something did happen to you, just understand that Jehovah knows, and you have to be humble enough to take your discipline and return to Jehovah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a joke. The example of the prodigal son is got to be one of the most misused concepts in the world, because when the prodigal son came back, the family was good. Everybody was good. When a witness is reinstated, and I've talked to so many people, and I know I've seen it, so I know people who are reinstated after being in this fellowship, man, they treat like a leper. They treat like a leper, man. There's no embracing and welcome back. And you know there is no celebration. These guys that threw a party, go out there, kill a couple hogs and kill some, kill some cows for some steak and get some lamb. We're gonna eat good tonight. You know goodness well, ain't nobody taking you out. Man, we're glad you're back, man, as a family, man. That does not happen for disfellowship people. Yep. So, you know, they just barely just now let people clap for you. Well, we glad you back now, whatever. You know? And so they just recently changed that. I mean, for all my life, man, you could not clap for this fellowship person getting reinstated. You couldn't rejoice that the person came back to God.
What I want to talk about now is the turning point in your relationship. Can you tell us about that in terms of when you began to wake up from the religion and how it made an impact on your relationship?
So as far as waking up, of course, he was the first one who started waking up and who did wake up. It took me a while longer, more so not because I didn't believe what he was saying, and because it was more so where am I supposed to go after this, you know? And it was hard for me, but people made it easy as time went on because of the things that they were saying and doing. And it's just like, I can't with this, because my relationship, no matter what, I am staying with him. I love him. And no matter what you're saying, you're not saying anything that I feel like God would want for people who love each other. He went to see the elders one time, and this is one of the big things that got that process started. He went to see the elders about hearing him and saying, hey, I need some help. I can't do this alone. And they said what they always say, like, we can't help you. The decision will stand, and we're doing you a favor. You have anxiety. We let you, listen in the parking lot. Most people don't get to do that. This is a privilege. And he's upset. So he sped off, because he did come in a motorcycle, but he sped off angry. And the elder turned to me with the most genuine, I don't know if he genuinely felt this or if he had some kind of agenda, but he said, is he at home abusing you? I said, he's not mad at me. I didn't do anything. You did it. And that is a weird jump to make for you to upset him and just say, oh, is he at home abusing you? And no, he isn't. And then I have other instances where I try to advocate for him again. I'm like, this is a lot happening. He needs some help, and I would talk to them about what happened. They're like, well, you don't know if he's telling you everything that happened in that back room. He could be lying. Like, so now you're telling me my husband is lying to me. And I said, you guys I'm already, hearing what he has to say and learning for myself that a lot of things that are happening are not okay. And you undermining my marriage is just not, it just solidified that I need to leave, because my marriage is really important to me. And I love him with everything in me. And I don't need anybody telling me that I can't be with my husband. And the funny thing is, they're not supposed to say that. They're supposed to be like, get him back in, get him into the flock. And they would say that, but for the most part, it's just like, if I decided that I wanted to leave, they would not have cared. They would have been fine with it. And I couldn't handle that. I didn't like it. It was not okay for me. to have my marriage put under pressure that didn't deserve it in the first place.
A turning point for me, I would say, was that there was, because there were several, but I noticed that the furthest I got away from this organization, the more successful I was becoming. And I think one of the things that we have trouble with as Jehovah's Witnesses is that we will reject success if it doesn't come from the organization. And so while I'm being successful and things are happening, I'm getting better jobs, we got a better place, we got out of the hood where we were, and things were getting better. But I remember talking to a group of elders that actually did decide to give me, the time of day. And they told me that if you're being successful, your success is either coming from the devil, or Jehovah is briefly granting you success so that you can come back to the organization. But if you don't, then you're going to fail. So either way, the organization looks good. And I started thinking, I said that, this can't be right. The way things were happening to us, I was starting to be able to gain. I noticed that my mental stability was improving the further I got away from the organization, because I would get physically sick going to the Kingdom halls, to the point of nausea. And it was just like, when I would stand outside, I felt okay. And so the elders let me in the parking lot, and they told me that was a privilege or whatever. And I noticed, I'm like, I actually don't want to be here at all. So I would leave halfway through the meeting and go do something else, and it was such a great feeling to do that. But after I wrote 6 letters to this organization in a 3-year period. Not one of them got responded to, and it was just, and I even tested to see, maybe it's not getting to the right people. And I remember filling out on the JW website, you can fill out if you want to study. And I said, let me see if they're going to respond to that. And I filled out the questionnaire, and somebody responded like within a week. And I was like, okay, so they're just ignoring me, and that was a turning point for me.
That was painful for me. I wanted him to stop, because I said, they're not listening to these letters. They don't care. And it hurt me to watch him constantly try and send these letters, hoping that someone would listen. It definitely was, they were causing him a lot of pain, because even with the meetings, he would come home and he would disappear in the garage, and he wouldn't talk for the rest of the night or the day, because going to the meetings was that much of an issue. This place was breaking him down.
It was draining.
And I didn't like seeing that. For him, it was draining me to be there, but to watch, to have yourself go through something, that's not good. I had anxiety and stuff, but I went through it. I'm like, it's fine. But when you see someone else going through it, it's so much more painful to watch someone you love to go through that on a regular basis, to see that kind of pain, and it hurts you in a way that you never want to feel. So I was glad that he drifted to the point of realizing this place isn't for me. And I'm glad I was able to follow along and get that same thing. And we both don't have to hurt anymore over something that's very controllable. That type of hurt was controllable with the way they were doing things.
It's really good, because that's what everybody needs. We each one of us, we have to get our confirmation. And once we get our confirmation that this is not the truth, that is what makes it such a pleasure to be able to move forward. Because until we get that, we'll keep begging them to love us. And once you realize there's no love coming from here, we get the confirmation, then we can move on, because we become settled in our mind that the direction we're going in is the right direction to go in.
We want to thank you for tuning in to The Critical Thought. We appreciate having you in our audience.
This program was sponsored by Critical Thinkers.